numbers. All right, so Harry, tell us what you have found about how voters are leaning at this point compared to 2020.
Yeah, I mean, the voter registration numbers, if you want a stat that Republicans absolutely love, it's this one, all right? Pennsylvania voter registration, you register by party in that state. You go back to November of 2020, you see Democrats 47%, Republicans 39%. That was an 8-point advantage. Look at where we are today. Yes, more voters in Pennsylvania are registered as Democrats and Republicans, but it's now just 44% to 40%. Now they've got a 4-point gap. Republicans, have cut that Democratic advantage in half. In such a short period of time. They have gone out, they have registered voters. There are folks that have come over to their side who were previously registered Democrats. The question is, where are they picking up ground?
Trump is absolutely surging all over. And we're going to get into this video where they break down on how Trump specifically is surging in Pennsylvania. And then we will get into a little bit of data of how Trump is surging in other places. Looks like it might be Trump winning the election, but let's dive into it and see what's going on.
Into the numbers. All right, so Harry, tell us what you have found about how voters are leaning at this point compared to 2020.
Yeah, I mean, the voter registration numbers, if you want a stat that Republicans absolutely love, it's this one, all right? Pennsylvania voter registration, you register by party in that state. You go back to November of 2020, you see Democrats 47%, Republicans 39%. That was an 8-point advantage. Look at where we are today. Yes, more voters in Pennsylvania are registered as Democrats and Republicans, but it's now just 44% to 40%. Now they've got a 4-point gap. Republicans, have cut that Democratic advantage in half. In such a short period of time. They have gone out, they have registered voters. There are folks that have come over to their side who were previously registered Democrats. The question is, where are they picking up ground, Manu? Where are they picking up ground? This, to me, says it all. All right, which Pennsylvania counties did the GOP gain in registration? If you look in counties where less than 50% of the population is non-college white voters, Republicans gain just a point. Where you have over 50% non-college whites, look at this. Republicans gain 6 points on average.
Wow.
They are picking up ground in the areas you would expect them to pick up ground, right? Those non-college white dominated areas, coal country in the Northeast, Southwest outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. But the bottom line is the registration trends, the trends we've been seeing the last few cycles with Republicans dominating among non-college white voters, very much showing up in this party registration.
So interesting, because David McCormick, who's the Senate candidate, the Republican Senate candidate, told me actually he believes that could actually propel him to victory because they're narrowing that margin with Democrats of voter registration. What does this mean for Kamala Harris and her chances of victory in Pennsylvania?
All right, so all of this data, bad news for Democrats, right? Good news for Republicans. But there's one thing to keep in mind, right? You had that New York Times Siena College poll that came out yesterday that showed Kamala Harris slightly ahead, but within the margin of error. Why is that? Because take a look here. This is the Pennsylvania margin by party registration in that poll. What you see here is that Kamala Harris, I'm going to come over to your side, Manu, is doing better among Democrats, a 77-point lead, than Donald Trump is among Republicans, a 74-point advantage. She's also doing better with those who are not registered with a party or with another party. But this nugget is key because even though Republicans have closed that registration gap, they haven't closed it completely. So the fact that Harris is doing slightly better among Democrats and Republicans, and there are more of them, that is what gives Democrats solace, is because at this particular point, that state, compared to, say, Arizona, slightly more favorable to Kamala Harris, at least in the polling data so far.
So what does this tell us? I mean, are we seeing this nationally? Are we seeing this in other battleground states, this change in the registration advantage Democrats?
Yeah, all right. So this, if it was just Pennsylvania and we're seeing just one state, I don't think we'd necessarily be doing this segment, but I believe it is part of a larger picture. Fewer voters who are registered as Democrats. This is across the battleground states where you have party registration. Not every state has party registration, right? Wisconsin doesn't, Georgia doesn't, Michigan doesn't. But in the battleground states where, in fact, you do have party registration, there are now fewer registered Democrats in Arizona, fewer registered Democrats in Nevada, fewer registered Democrats, and, of course, the great state of North Carolina. So what we're seeing in Pennsylvania is being seen in other states as well. More folks are registering as Republicans as compared to Democrats. But we're looking at the battleground states. Let's take this out nationally, all right? This is party registration, but let's look at party identification. Party registration, of course, is you're actually registered with the party. Party ID is when you say, I feel like a Democrat today, I feel like a Republican today. They're correlated, but they're not exactly the same, but I think it gets at the trend that's going on here, Manu. All right, so party ID nationally. You go to October, November of 2016, Democrats had a 3-point advantage. You go 4 years ago, Democrats had a 6-point advantage. Look at where we are today, Manu. Republicans with a 1-point advantage. a very different picture, very much mirroring what we see in the party registration numbers in those key battleground states, and Pennsylvania in particular.
It actually just shows you, too, why Harris is doing what she's trying to do. She's trying to moderate a little bit on these issues, trying to reach those very voters, because the party registration is changing and the demographics of the voters are changing. Those are the people she needs to attract.
Absolutely. And the GOP leads by a point in party identification right now. The average when the Republican Party loses is the Democrats ahead by 8. When the Republican Party wins, the average party ID advantage for Democrats is 3. Republicans right now, Manu, are doing even better than the average when they win. If there's one little nugget that I think Republicans are really hopeful for, it's this party ID and this party registration data. It really points in a good direction for them and for Donald Trump.
Wow. We'll see. Close race, and that can absolutely make the difference here. And then, of course, the guru.
So as we see, this is absolutely dramatic. Like I've said before, when we looked at the election of Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton went into that election up 5 points on the national average. She got the popular vote by 3% and lost the election by a lot of electoral votes, somewhere around 90 to 100. When it came to Biden was up 9% at the end of the last month before the election, and Biden only won within 10 to 15,000 votes within 3 different states on the skin of his teeth. So, and then he wound up winning the popular vote, I believe, by 4 to 5%. So when we look at that, Kamala is actually neck and neck with Trump, and we're getting ready to go over the data to show you that, which shows that if she's not up 8, 9, 10, 11, 12% on the popular, she is not going to win the election. And right now, they're pretty much neck and neck. Some polls say Trump is up. A couple of polls say Kamala's up by a percent or so. But when we dived into the data that you just saw, we've saw since 2020, the amount of Democrats that have registered to vote has declined dramatically, while the amount of Republicans to vote in this current election has increased. And as we know, this is not just in Pennsylvania, which we're talking about has a dramatic surge. This has also occurred in many other of the battleground states. The same exact thing is happening in these battleground states. And then when they looked at the country overall, we see overall it is a 1% plus advantage for Republicans when it comes to registration in this current election. It is absolutely unparalleled. This is the best percentage-wise, stats-wise, that Trump has ever done in any election that he has ever run in. And as we saw in the last part of that particular video, that when it comes to party identification overall, when a Democrat is up 3 points or less, a Republican wins the election. Again, when a Democrat is up 3 points on party identification, which is accumulated to and correlated to the popular vote, when they're up 3%, the Republican wins. But when they are up, but we see right now, Republicans are up 1%. What does that say? What does that say that is currently going to happen in the next election? Let's go into some of these numbers here so we can give a more transparent breakdown on absolutely positively what's going on in the current moment with this election. Let's get into it. Okay, we have this article here, okay, saying that Trump has taken the largest election betting odds lead since July. Okay, Kamala Harris is running out of steam. We see this everywhere. News channels don't even want to report this at the moment. Okay, this is from Fox News. a little bit more right-leaning, but nevertheless, they are showing Trump opens up the largest betting lead also since days after Biden has dropped out. Harris was at a peak, almost 9%, when she first came in and pushed Biden out, like the DOC did. But now we see Trump has opened up a 10-point lead in the betting odds. 10-point lead. Almost a 20% swing. Here we see the same thing. Trump's odds have surged over the past week, and he now holds a 2+ vote electoral college lead, says prominent data scientists. We're seeing it all over. We're seeing this. Dead heat. Trump pulls even with Harris in a new NBC News poll. The NBC News polls never had a dead heat with Trump. They say that he is surging, but it's not that, just that he's surging. It's Kamala has run out of steam. And her fan base, her popularity cannot keep up with that of Trump because she doesn't have a true fan base. Okay, let's get into, we see the data here. For example, in Pennsylvania, Trump up 3%, according to the election wizard, which took the polling from Rasmussen. Some might say, well, Rasmussen, this, that, and the third. They don't like it as a poll. Well, in the last few elections, Rasmussen has been the top 3 most accurate polling, impartial, which they claim they are, polling service. They've been top 3 in the last presidential elections. So they are reliable. They have Trump up 3% in Pennsylvania. Percentages have shown if Trump wins Pennsylvania, he wins the election. There's an 82% chance. Moving on. It shows right here that the change in Arizona ballots, for example, it shows right now that ballots that have been returned in so far is 7% advantage for Republicans. We are very early in mail-in ballots. But at the current moment, Republicans are up 7% in Arizona. Moving on. The average battleground states, when it comes to polling for the advantage, we can see right now Trump is up in battleground states. Trump is up. Moving on next. Battleground states again. Another polling. Trump is up 2%. 2% Trump is up on these battleground states. Okay, moving into this. NBC News again. Early voting in Nevada. Trump is crushing it. Again, we are very early. There's no need to get too excited. But the trend is insane. Mail-in votes overwhelmingly benefit Democrats because, as I've said before, according to the last election, 60 to 80% of Republicans went in person to vote. When it came to the last election, 60 to 80% of Democrats mailed in their votes. Mail-in voting benefits Democrats. Why? Because they feel as if, I don't know, going in to cast your vote in person is racist. Whatever. Don't know. But maybe they're just not enthusiastic to actually vote for a person they like because they don't actually like the person. They just hate the other person on the other side. We'll get into something like that later where I can break more information down like that. Nevertheless, mail-in ballots are crushing Dems. Next. Again, Pennsylvania, red wave, is up 1% on Pennsylvania. Listen, so Trump is getting a lot of enthusiasm right now. He's getting a lot of attention, and the polls are showing, and Kamala Harris is running out of steam. So nevertheless, this is the video I got for you. It's good breakdown here. Make sure you like and subscribe. I'll see you guys on the next video. Make sure you go check my podcast out, Verbal Artwork from Mr. Rembrandt. See you on the next video.